All right, let's just jump right in. We all have this incredible, lifelong collection of memories, right? But if you ever really, truly stop to ask one of the biggest questions in all of neuroscience, where do we actually keep all of that stuff? It's a mystery that has stumped scientists for ages, and the paper we're digging into today offers up an answer that is so out there, it could completely change how we think about the mind itself. I mean, really think about it for a second. Your brain holds everything. The face of your first crush, the lyrics to that song you loved in high school, the feeling of accomplishment when you finally learned to ride a bike. Millions and millions of moments. How in the world does that 3-pound chunk of tissue in your skull manage to store a whole lifetime of experiences and never, ever run out of space? That's the huge question we're tackling. Okay, so to get started, let's cover what the mainstream scientific view is. For more than 100 years, scientists have been on this quest, this hunt for something called the engram. That's just the fancy science term for the physical trace a memory leaves behind in the brain. The big puzzle has always been, what is that trace? Is it a chemical? Is it part of the brain's wiring? Where, physically, is the memory of your grandmother's voice actually located? Well, the leading theory, the one you'll find in most textbooks, is called synaptic plasticity. The concept is actually kind of simple, but how it works is incredibly complex. The basic idea is that memories aren't stored in one little spot. Instead, they're stored in the connections between your brain cells, your neurons. When you learn something new, the links between these neurons, the synapses, literally change. And it's so important to get that these are real, physical changes. We're not just talking about a little electrical zap. According to the research, learning involves physically making connections stronger, growing totally new ones, and even changing the proteins and how genes are expressed inside the cells. So in this view, your memories are literally carved into the architecture of your brain. But, and this is a big but, here's where things get interesting. As good as that model is, the source we're looking at today points out some pretty big potential problems. And the biggest one? Well, you could call it a data storage crisis. Can the physical brain really hold it all? Get ready for this number because it's a big one. Back in the 1950s, the genius physicist John von Neumann did some math. He figured out that over an average human life, we take in about 2.8 times 10 to the power of 20 bits of information. To give you some perspective, that's like having a stack of 100 billion CDs. It is a mind-bogglingly huge amount of data. And that brings us right to the core of the problem. You know, our brains only have so many neurons and synapses, and they're made of proteins that break down over time. So some researchers are asking, is this system really capable of storing that much data reliably for 80 or 90 years? Can the hardware actually handle that kind of load? And this is where our source material just takes a huge, fascinating, and let's be honest, pretty unconventional turn. If the brain is facing a storage crisis, then what's the alternative? Well, the paper we're looking at dusts off an idea that goes way back to ancient philosophy and gives it a brand new neuroscientific twist. So this whole storage problem leads the authors to propose a truly mind-bending possibility. It all starts with this simple premise. Maybe the brain's physical hard drive is, in fact, limited. And if that's true, well, it leads them to ask a question that, at first, sounds pretty much impossible. What if the brain isn't the storage device? What if its job is something else entirely? Okay, here it is. The core idea of this paper is that our long-term memories are not held inside our brain's physical structure at all. Instead, they're stored in a non-physical space, what they call an extracorporeal space, which they connect to the concept of the human soul. Now, it's really important to say this is a speculative model. It's way out on the fringes of mainstream neuroscience, but it's a huge idea. So let's break down how they think this could actually work. So you're probably thinking, okay, how on earth would that even be possible? Well, the authors don't just throw the idea out there. They actually propose a specific blueprint for how this brain-soul connection could function, using some really cool modern analogies to help us get it. The main concept is actually pretty easy to grasp with an analogy. In this model, your brain isn't the hard drive, it's the processor. It's not the library with all the books, it's the librarian who knows how to find them. The brain's job is to process what you see and hear, and to pull up memories when you need them. The actual storage, the hard drive, the cloud storage, is the soul. Think of your brain as the TV, which shows you the picture, but the broadcast signal itself is coming from somewhere else. So they suggest this all happens in 4 distinct stages. First, your senses take in information from the world. Second, a part of your brain called the hippocampus bundles all that info together. Third, and this is key, while you're asleep, that data gets uploaded to the soul. And finally, when you want to remember something, your brain just downloads it back from that external storage. Let's zoom in on that second step, the encoding part. The authors suggest that for every single moment we experience, the brain creates what they call a data package. You can think of it like a file on a computer. It captures everything all at once: what you saw, what you heard, how you felt, the smells, everything. And it bundles it all together into one single organized memory file. So which parts of the brain are the key players in this whole operation? Well, the hippocampus is pegged as the encoder. It's the thing that builds those data packages. But to do the upload and download, the authors point to a tiny little structure right in the center of the brain, the pineal gland. They suggest that this gland might act as a kind of biological antenna or a wireless modem, connecting the physical brain to the non-physical soul. You know, this model also gives us a totally new way to think about why sleep is so critical for memory. It's not just about letting your brain rest. No. In this view, sleep is when the real work gets done. It's the designated time for system maintenance. All night long, the brain is busy uploading the day's memories for permanent storage. And while it's at it, it clears its own temporary memory, its cache, so it's fresh and ready to go for the next day. So we're left with this really provocative final question that kind of sums the whole thing up. Is your brain a massive library, physically holding every single book from your entire life on its shelves? Or is it more like a library card, a really sophisticated piece of tech designed not to hold the information itself, but to give you instant access to a massive external archive of everything you've ever done, thought, or felt? It's a question that really pushes the limits of what we know and challenges us to rethink what memory, and maybe even what we are, truly is.